Hello, it's Sunday night, 7 o'clock. I'm gonna paint for you again tonight. I am really excited about this one. This one is a cross. It could be for Easter, but it could be for any time. It would not have to be Easter. There's just lots that you could do with this cross. I'm kind of a blue fanatic, so I painted mine blue. I think when you really look at it, this probably is a dove of peace, and it probably should have been white. But I wanted the blue bird of happiness, and I wanted faith, love, hope, and I wanted in my blue color scheme because I really love the color blue. That's my favorite color, and I have lots of blue stuff, and so I thought, well, I'm going to do this one in blue. Later on, I might just for fun do another one and put a white dove in there and do a different color scheme. But when I drew this one, I was thinking about bluebirds rather than the dove, but it's probably a dove when we get right down to it. But faith, hope, and love, hey, we certainly need lots of that now. So this is what we're going to paint tonight, and I hope you'll join in. And there was some at the store. I went yesterday and stayed a little while and talked to Paula, and they're well stocked with all of the Easter things. There's still some Valentine's left. You better hurry though, there's not that many Valentines left, and the Valentine stuff was really cute this year, so you might grab onto some of those Valentines before they're gone. But there's plenty of Easter stuff there today. So I'm going to pull the camera down so that you can see where I'm painting, and we'll get started on this. It takes a little bit of time to do this one, mainly because this lettering, the lettering is pretty detailed, and so we'll talk about it. It's got these little dots at the top, and of course just a vine that's in greenery. But I'm going to pull the camera down and we'll get started. That's pretty good. All right. I painted my base coat of light blue, which is number 2. And I painted that base coat on first, and then I did my shading in white, which is number 35. So you can see that the white is in the center and it fades out into this light blue. So number 2 and white, number 35. Then I used the medium blue, which is number 4. And my shading on that medium blue, I used bright blue, which I didn't pull out here. Let me grab that. Where's my bright blue? Brilliant blue. It's not bright blue, it's brilliant blue. I'm sorry. It's number 5, brilliant blue, instead of bright blue. And then I used navy blue, which is number 6. So I used all of the blues, 2, 4, 5, and 6. The outside edges along here is gray, number 24, the gray. For my green, I used lime green, number 10, and I shaded that lime green to get more of an olivey color, I guess you would say, and I shaded it with number 33, nutmeg. And then I outlined it with dark green, number 12. I didn't pull out here yellow. I used just a tiny bit of light yellow for the beak. But those are the only colors I used, and then black, number 37, for my outlining. Tonight I brought my hairdryer because it's going to take a little bit of time to get this center part dry enough so that we can go on and paint on that, because as you can tell, I've got a lot of white in this center of the cross, and it fades out and gives kind of an ombre effect to the blue. pull this over, and I'm gonna take my white, and I'll be using my fan brush at the edges, but in the center, I want it pretty solid. So I'm going to use a flat mop brush to get the white in there, because it needs to be pretty solid there. So I'm going to take my white, and I'm going to work kind of in quadrants. I'm going to do this side and this side at the top and then the bottom. So I'm going to come along the edge of my bird, and I'm going to get this white. And I didn't paint any of the green in, because if this white gets on it, that's okay, it'll cover it up. And I'm letting this come out and kind of flicking my brush up as it dries, I guess you would say, as the paint comes off. Coming completely out, dry brushing it, just whatever paint is left on there, I'm coming off with that paint out to my edges until no more paint is wanting to come off. Then I'm going to dip it again, come right up against my bird, and get some more of that solid white in. And flip your brush up so that you get those soft edges. Get it on my bird, just use your finger and wipe it off. Flipping that up into these words. Now I went ahead and did a few of the words because I want to show you about outlining them. So I'm going to try to keep this off. I may have to touch them up. It's easier when they're not done. You want to come down to the end and flip it up. Flip that out, letting your brush get completely dry. Long strokes, and flip them up as you get to the edge. I'm going right across the top of those vines. Right around that bird. Now this one needs to come out more, so I'm going to put some more white right here. Come clear on out into the center of that part of the cross. You just don't want any hard edges. So you want to keep coming in and flipping that paintbrush up so that you get just the wispy tail end of your bristles. You want a nice transition. And if it's not white enough against the bird, you can come back, put another layer of white on there, and then just keep flipping it up. I think I had to put 2 layers to get it as white as I wanted right out from the bird. You probably can't get it done in 1 layer. You probably have to come back in with 2 layers. So I wanted it pretty white around that bird. Putting that second layer on, you don't flip it out quite as far. So see, you've got that out. Now I'm going to turn it around so I can go down to the middle around my words down here. So I'm going to come down in the middle and come out to the side from the center. So I want to get white in the center, and then I want to flip them out to the side. I'm coming right down the center of the cross, and I'm flipping to the outside. And I'm letting that brush go dry as I was coming out to the side. Come clear on down past the word love. And keep stroking until your brush just doesn't have any more paint on it. It's very, very dry brush. Then you come back in, dip again, come back to the center and add more white to the center, but as it dries out, come out to these outside edges so that you get that shaded ombre look. I want to get more white up here in the center. Coming down more white right in the center. And I'm using a cross hatching to get that smooth. Going diagonally one way, redipping my brush, and going diagonally the other way. And that'll give you a little bit smoother cover. Okay. That's looking pretty good right there. If you come back in, sometimes you need to let it dry just a little bit more and then see how it looks if you need to add some more white in any area. That center part looks pretty good. It looks like I need just a little bit more white right over here on this side. Get this side a little whiter. So I'm just going to add some white right in there. And dry brushing it out. Getting plenty of white right around my bird. pretty much, I could pull it a little bit more up in here. Trying to stay away from those letters I've already colored in. See, I've got that white in the center. Now, I'm going to hit this with the hair dryer because I want to work on top of this. So excuse me just a minute. May still not be completely dry. I'm going to work right up here because I can keep my hand where I don't get my hand in anything. And I talked about my fan brush, but I didn't use it. If you have trouble getting these edges feathered out, you can use this fan brush and come along your outside edges with the fan brush to smooth them out. If you have trouble flipping that brush up to get a smooth transition, so that you don't have any hard lines, you can use one of these fan brushes and you can just come right along the edges and fan it out if you choose to use that. You can see I really didn't need it because I flipped that corner of that brush up enough and it was dry enough that I really did not need to use the fan brush. But the fan brush is a good way in case you need it. All right, I'm going to paint in my gray letters here. Now, when I use this gray, and I'm going to show you first. That one's not small enough. Let's see that one. All right, I'm going to put just my straight gray for this first F. Now, when we talk about color theory, you've got to have a contrast in tone of your paint for it to show up good. And when I put this gray on, and I wanted this kind of a monochromatic, where it's all blues and gray and black and white are my neutrals, so I put this gray on there, and can you see? It's too light. It did not show up. It is the same tonal value as this light blue, so it didn't show up enough. So I added some black to my gray, and I got one of these little mixing cups, and I put my gray in first, and then I just kept adding a touch of black, almost like a brush full of black, until I got it as dark as I thought it needed to be, so that I could put, and this gray would show up. And when you add black to a color, it's called a shade. And so I just would take a brush full. I didn't even use one of these little spoons because I didn't want it to be too much at one time. So I just take my brush and dip it in the black and brush it in there, and then put some on my letter until I got down to the color that I thought really showed up against my blue. And I'd say this is kind of, it probably ends up being about half and half when you get right down to it. But I'm using a small number 2 script liner because these letters are small. They're not very big. So I guess if I said they were small, that's, I didn't have to say they're not very big. But you need something fairly small to get down in that CNC line get right along that line. And get this letter in. See, this one is already dry, so I ought to be able to put right on top of it and it not hurt anything. And see what a difference that makes when you darken that? See, now that letter is showing up from my light blue. So now I have my faith in, and then all of this border and along the edge is done in this gray. So I'm going to turn it around this way, and I'm going to come in with my lime green. And I used my nutmeg simultaneously. I used my lime green, but I also, ooh, look at that. I also used my nutmeg, same time. So I opened them both up, had them both here beside me. Sometimes when it dries on the lid, you have to pull those dried pieces off and get them out of your way. Let me get some more paper towel. I keep a paper towel here. You can do a rag and throw it away, but I use paper towels because I can dry my brush off. But using that same script liner brush that I was using before, this is bigger, but it fits down in those CNC lines really nicely. So that's pretty dry now. So I'm going to come up here and start with my leaf. I'm going to get my leaf in. I'm going to put a lot of paint on there. This is my lime green. Okay, I have that much done. I'm going to come over here without washing my brush. I'm going to take just a touch of brown. This is the nutmeg brown on the tip of my brush, and I'm going to come down the side of that leaf and brush it out. And that just ever so slightly shades that leaf. I'm going to come and do the same thing on the inside of this stem, because the inside of the stem would be darker. So I'm just adding just a very little brown. You see that brown on there? So then I just wipe it off. I go back to my green. Come on down the stem. Wipe that brush off. So I don't have much paint on there. I'm going to come back over to my lid and I'm getting just a little bit of that brown. And I'm going to put my brown and just brush it on that side of the leaf. Come on down on my stem. Just adding that little bit of brown. And then I want to come in here and just add a little bit of that nutmeg along the edge of that leaf. And then I just wipe my brush off, come back to my green again. And it gives your leaves a little bit more dimension. I'm going to come back and I'm going to use my dark green to outline around these. I'm going to use a little white highlight on them. But that just extra little touch of brown makes these leaves really pop. And it makes them look a little bit more realistic. It's just a real subtle addition. And you see I've got a spot right here. I guess something got on it when I was painting my background color, so I'll have to come in and touch that up. This brush is a little small for these bigger leaves, but it's perfect for the stem, so sometimes you have to just use it anyway. Come down the edge of my stem. Just letting that brown kind of streak on there. Just like that. So that part is done, and it will have to dry, and then when it will dry, I'll outline it. I'm going to dry it real quick here. While that is drying a little more, I'll come back up here to my face, and I'm going to take a even smaller script liner, and I'm going to outline with black. Now I mixed up some black and water in one of these little cups to get it where it'll flow pretty nicely. You want it like whipping cream consistency, so that when you put it in that groove that the CNC did, it'll ride right down that groove. because that makes it perfect for us, because that groove is right there. And these letters are small, so you want to keep your line fairly small. That's why I'm using this one is a 0. So this one is really small. Just outline it just a little bit there. And while you're doing that, you can come in and outline here at the same time. You're going to outline this in black too. So you've got your script liner. All right, my next letter. And you'll do this on each one of those letters. I did my other letters or other words in different colors. You could make them all the same. See, just like that. Now, after I outlined each one of those letters, I came back in and I put a white highlight on it. Now the little blue dots at the top, I outlined with navy. I didn't outline them with black. I outlined them with navy. You could outline them with black, but I thought it was just an added little extra to outline them with navy. But you outline each one of those letters with your black, with your little bitty script liner, and then come in and put a white highlight on it. I did my faith and my hope in the gray, but then I did my and in the medium blue, number 4, and then I did my love in the brilliant blue, number 5. And each one of those has a highlight on it. These just take time. They're not hard. They just take time to paint those in. So I'm going to come into my bird, work on my bird just a little bit. So the first thing I did with my bird, I've got him medium blue, so I'm going to come in with my brilliant blue. And I've got a mop brush that is kind of a medium size. It's a number 6. And I'm going to come in and right along the edge, I'm just going to come down and I'm going to give it shading lines. You've got a wing. So I stopped here because I wanted to do underneath the wing to give it a shadow under the wing. So came in here. And then down the tail. And it has a little extra V in the tail for a highlight. So I'm going to come around that V, and then right at the very edge, use just the edge of my brush and get a small highlight. There. Okay, then I want to come, this is my wing that's in the back, so I'm going to come here and come up. Then on top. And these are the feathers on each wing. And then maybe a little bit here, a little bit in there. So then that will need to be drying. While that's drying, I'm going to get my yellow and put that beak in, because I don't need much yellow, but I'll add that beak. You could do an orange beak. My bluebird has a yellow beak. There we go. Okay, while that is drying, I'm going to come back over here to, and that's pretty close to being dry. Not completely dry, but it's pretty close. So I'm going to come back in and I'm going to take my dark green to do my highlighting or my shading with my dark green. I got to shake this up more. This is dark green number 12. Now after I get that leaf outlined, then I want to put a vein right down the middle of that leaf. So just a little curved line right down the edge of that leaf. So you can get to it a little easier. So you can see what I'm doing. And then a little vein down the center of that leaf. vein there. Like that, a little darker, so I go over it twice. Now this little small brush does not hold a lot of paint, so you have to re-dip quite a bit when you have a small brush. The good thing about a big brush is it holds a lot of paint, so you don't have to dip as much. But when you're doing something small like these letters and this veining in this, you need a fairly small brush. Come back and add just a little, couple of little of darker shading lines on my brown side, just like that. Now later, when that dries, I'll add a white highlight to it. Let's dry that and I'll show you. While that's finishing up drying, I want to add a lighter stomach to my bluebird. So I'm going to take my light blue, and it also has this V part in the tail, so I want to add a light color in there. Here for his tummy area, and then I want to get a lighter blue on the top of this wing, and this is almost going to read white because it's such a light color, and if you think it's too much, you can come back in with your medium blue and tone it down. I really think this right against this white is too light. The rest of it is okay. So I'm going to come in with my medium blue, and without washing my brush out, I'm just going to take that medium blue and blend it so I've got a lighter color, but it doesn't read white on me because I don't want it to read white, because I want a contrast from here. So while it's still wet, I'm just adding this medium blue to that light blue. and that toned it just ever so slightly. Now I've got to get a white eye, because later I'm going to put a black pupil and a white highlight there. So I want to come in here with my white and get this eye. I'm just doing the whole thing white right now. Now I've got this white out, so I'm going to take and I'm going to do a white highlight on my leaf. Just like that. So then this part of this vine is finished. I got to touch up that place I had right there. This color dries down a little bit darker. I don't know what I touched, who knows. But I touched it right there and got a dirty spot, so I have to touch that up. Now you'll do the same thing for this vine. You'll do it over here and you'll do it down here. You got 2 more vines to do. I don't see any reason for me to show you doing those vines too, because you're going to do them just exactly the same way. Now I'm going to take my navy blue and I'm going to use it to shade my bird and my little dots. Now these little dots, you don't have to do a lot to them, but I wanted just a little highlight around each one of those dots so that I could put my little comma in the center of them. That makes them look three-dimensional. So I'm just using that little bitty script liner and just staying in that CNC groove. You know, this, I know this is yard art, but wouldn't this make a great wedding gift for a couple getting married? It would be great to hang inside a house on the wall. You could put a hook on it, but faith, hope, and love, good sentiment for a wedding anniversary gift. We have it as Easter, but it can be anytime. Now I've got those outlined, so I'm going to take my white and I'm just going to put a comma in each one. That gives them a little three-dimensional look. Just a little comma. That makes them look three-dimensional. Is that dry enough? I think that's dry enough. I can work on my bird a little bit more. So I'm going to turn this around this way so I can get my hand over here. And I'm going to get my navy blue. And I'm going to outline my bird with navy blue instead of the black. I think a lot of times we tend to outline everything in black, and you don't need to. think about other colors that are darker to do your outlining. That one's kind of frayed. Let's see if I have a better one. Where's my good, see my good script liner. I get my brushes lost in here. And sometimes I leave them over at the sink cleaning them. See how that navy, it makes that bird pop out, but it's not as harsh as black. So you get a softness. And to me, birds are kind of soft. Okay, so I've got the bottom half of him done. So I'm going to turn him upside down for me so that I don't get my hand in what I've already done down here, and I can get this done here. So there's one feather on that wing. Here's another feather. It was such a pretty sunny day today, I had a hard time staying inside. I wanted to go outside and work. It was still a little too cold. I did do just a little bit of spray painting outside. It got almost warm enough. It needs to be 70 to do spray painting outside, but in the sunshine, I fudged. And it worked out all right. It was almost warm enough. I think it's gonna be all right. Okay. Put a few a few little lines there for his, there we go. Okay, so the bird is done except for his eye. And I'm going to use black on the eye. So I'm going to get my black that I have mixed up. May not be. I'll go ahead and outline his beak with the black. Now, there isn't a line in his beak, but I like to put one. That's up to you. Okay, so I've got his eyeball outlined. You got to decide where you want him to look. If you want him to look back, then the white part needs to be on the front side. If you want him to look front, then the white needs to be to the back. If you want him to look up, the white would be below his eye. So you got to decide where you want him to look. I want him to look forward. So I'm putting his eyeball to the front with the white to the back. When that's dry, I'll come back in and I'll just put a little white dot on there. So now my bird's done. So really and truly, that's all you have to do for this one. You're going to move this over. You're going to repeat your green just like I showed you on one side. You're going to do the same thing there and there. You're going to do the same thing for your lettering. So there's really, other than highlighting it, I highlighted around the outside edge with my medium blue, number 4, all the way around. And then after I got it done, I decided it still needed the black outline because I had outlined the gray with the black. So then I went around with a little black outline, which really made it pop. So that's all there is to painting this faith, hope, and love. Let me take a look on my phone and see if we have anybody that has any big questions that they need to ask. Most of the time, you all don't ask any questions anymore. Let's see, I'll turn my sign off. And also, Mary and Ashley will get on and they'll answer questions. Yeah, Kimberly, I do. I have some really small brushes. When I want to outline these letters, excuse me, I have to get a drink of my tea. When they have a lot of detail, like this lettering has this scroll, a bigger brush makes it really hard for you. So if you get down to a number 2 or 3, even sometimes a number 1, you can get that detail on those letters. Is the green coloring the raw MDO very good? I don't know what you mean, Phaedra. I did not pre-treat this. I painted directly on the MDO. I didn't base coat the whole thing. So I left this green. So I painted lime green directly on the MDO, if that's what you're asking me. Yeah, Terry, the blanks are at the store. And I think when you look at the blank, I think at first glance you think, ooh, that's pretty hard. but it's really not. It's not a hard blank at all to work on. So I hope you get one. A lot of patience. I don't know that it has a lot of patience. Now, if you have a hard time with little small things, the lettering may take some patience with it. Oh, Debbie, you've already got 3 sold. You know, and I think you could do a cardinal. You could do red colors and do a cardinal bird in here. I want to do something with a white bird, with a peace bird. I think the dove would be really pretty, and use dark colors on it. What color blue did I use on the cross? I used light blue, number 2. And I painted the whole thing with the light blue. And then my bird is the medium blue, and it's shaded with the brilliant blue, number 5. Mary likes the blue and white background. Mary and Paula know I love blue and white. They always, when they get in the blue and white pots, the Talavera pots that are all blue and white, that's my favorite. Blue has always been a soothing color for me, and it's just my favorite color. My favorite color has always been blue, so anytime I can get more blue things. I have blue dishes. I drink out of blue glasses. My bedroom is painted blue, and my bedspread has blue in it. So blue's just my favorite color. So when I wanted to do it, I wanted to do it in blue and white. Thank you, Carolyn. The shading is so easy, though. You know, you think it's difficult, but as you saw, it really is easy. So I hope you all have a great week, and I hope you go by the store. Remember, they're closed on Mondays now, but they have good stock in of all of the Easter things, and this is Faith, Hope, and Love. We're calling it an Easter cross, but it could be a cross for all year. It doesn't necessarily just have to be Easter. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Stay warm. It's going to get cold on us again. And go get you something to paint. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye. Come on, quit. Have to get up and go over there. It's not stopping.